This is my ultimate Halloween board game mashup. So when planning out the best selection of games for a nice night of board gaming on Halloween, I came up with an awesome theme involving a spooky mansion that players will first solve a murder in, then commit murder in, then simply try to survive their escape. Let's dive right in, starting with Clue. Now today I have the 2023 edition of Clue on display, and if you'd like to see my deep dive review of Clue, I've got a link in the description down below. However, I gotta say the 2023 edition from Hasbro is a rare treat. The art is vibrant, it's colorful. I love the play of cooler colors and the warmer temperatures near the light sources. It really gives you the feeling of exploring a dark and spooky, mysterious mansion, all while collecting clues to try to find out who killed Mr. Boddy. Now, the little player pieces are beautifully sculpted, and I love how the weapons have this nice gold brassy finish as well. The dice are also no slouch. These are classic D6s, but they do feature a unique side that has a little magnifying glass. Also embossed, and they have a wonderful weight to them. Now, the rule set for Clue is largely unchanged, though we do have some variations with some extra event cards added in 2023, but I actually think that they really add some lovely spice to the gameplay. So, if you're looking for an excellent primer for your board game evening with a nice Halloween spooky feel, why not start with a classic murder mystery before moving on to the nostalgic treat that is 13 Dead End Drive. Now, 13 Dead End Drive was originally published in 1993 by Milton Bradley, and the one that you see on display here is actually a 30th anniversary edition from Winning Moves Games. Now, this came out in 2023. It's still widely available. What I love about this is now we've gone into a little bit wackier fun, and you're going to be allowing your guests to let out their inner demons, as in this game, they will take control of 12 possible heirs to Aunt Agatha's fortune. They've all gathered in Aunt Agatha's mansion for the reading of the will. Now, I know in Clue it was Mr. Boddy that was murdered, and in 13 Dead End Drive it's Aunt Agatha whose will is being read. But I don't think it's too far of a stretch if you want to go thematically that first you solve the murder, then you have the victim's will being read, which leads to a whole string of murders, because as players attempt to become the sole heir to the fortune, they will be eliminating the competition with a series of wacky traps all throughout the mansion. You're going to be dropping chandeliers on people, knocking them off of bookcases, throwing them downstairs, even throwing them into the fireplace, all hoping to eliminate the competition before this detective reaches the front door, or perhaps you might actually escape with your skin intact. It all depends on how tactical and how calculating you are. Now, once you've had a little bit of wacky, murderous fun, it's time for the game to take a bit of a darker turn. Assuming that your audience for the evening is now largely the older crowd, I highly recommend Betrayal at House on the Hill. Now, this edition I have here is a little bit older. I think they're on the 3rd edition currently. This is the 2nd edition. So this one's from 2010. The gameplay is largely the same, though they're always making improvements. This just happened to be the one I had on hand, and it's got some mileage on it. This is one of my favorites. We add a little bit of role-playing spice as you get to take control of one of 6 of these little player characters. Each one has a player card that's reversible with different sets of traits. So you're never pigeonholed into one if you didn't get your choice of character. You still at least get to choose how your trait points are distributed, and those are important as they affect your survivability throughout the game. Now, as players explore this mysterious house, they will also be constructing the game board. As you go through entrances and exits through the main hall, you will be drawing these room cards that will fit on the map in different ways depending on the locations of the doors, and they will also prompt you to do things like draw event cards, which will give you special instructions for events that will progress the game. You may also find items in the form of these item cards. You can find all kinds of things, weapons and companions. It's really surprisingly imaginative. And then, of course, There are omens, and each time you trigger an omen, players will have to roll an ever-expanding amount of dice to determine if the haunt starts. And when the haunt starts, usually what will happen is one player will be separated from the rest of the players in the game, and they will be issued a special set of instructions. So there are 3 instruction manuals in here. There's the base game instructions that teach everybody how to play. There's the survivor instructions for players who are trying to survive the haunt, and then there are haunt instructions for the players who are playing as the new antagonist once the haunt is kicked off. So the idea is once the haunt starts, one player will be trying to eliminate the other players that they were once playing with in an attempt to win the game for themselves, while the other players will try to team up and defeat their enemy player who's recently arisen from the haunt. So it's quite exciting because you never know if you're going to be facing off against a phantasm or a werewolf. One, the map changes every time. The players have the choice of different traits. You never know who's going to end up with what items or how events are going to change the parameters of the game. And there are so many different haunt types, you seldom will play the same haunt twice. So this is one that the learning curve's a little bit steeper, but there's a lot more story to be enjoyed. And because the game parameters change with each unique haunt, it makes it so much more exciting in my opinion. But again, definitely for older players, as it's going to be 1, more difficult, and 2, a little bit scarier. But a nice crescendo to end your wonderful game night evening with. So, these of course aren't like the be-all and end-all of Halloween-themed games. I really went with sort of like the Haunted Mansion theme. I suppose I could have included Ghost Castle as well, but you know, I would say 3 different games in an evening is a pretty decent spread. However, do you have a different mashup that you might suggest for spooky season, or maybe a game that you would like to change out? Do you think maybe I should have changed out one of these titles for something else that might fit better? Why don't you comment below and let me know. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.